Hey guys, Chris here. So I'm back at the homestead. It is January, early January. I want to show you guys there are plants that grow in the winter. Hey guys, so not necessarily a plant, but there's some deer droppings there. Now, you can use these if they're a grassy type dropping. Once these have dried, these make halfway decent little fire starters. Other animal droppings, you can do the same, as well as mixing these as one of your 3 parts to make pitch glue.
Hey guys, look.
Here's one for you.
There's one for you.
You guys tell me what you think it is. I'll tell you that it is edible. In its adult stage, after it flowers, you can start fires from the fluff in the seed pods.
And it's poisonous?
No, it's not poisonous. The parts that are edible, though, are inside the stalk. You peel the fibrous layer on the outside off, which, by the way, you can make cordage from. But you peel that fibrous layer off and you eat that tender heart that's on the inside. Not necessarily the best tasting thing, but they're somewhat nutritious, I guess. But see if you guys can tell me what you think that is. I'll tell you what that plant is at the end of this video, as well as another stage the plant is edible in. So I've talked to you about this plant before. The plant I showed you is a lot bigger, but it's henbit. You can use it to make teas. It's high in iron. It's very nutritious. You can eat the shoots and the young leaves and such, but it's growing everywhere out here right now. Lots of small little patches of henbit all through here. Another source of food. It's in a plant, but it's not necessarily a plant. You can look here. You got a fresh, basically like a sawdust pile down here. This is going to be full of some grubs or some woodworms that you could dig out of there and eat. Hey guys, so I'm right over where I showed you this. This is all primrose. It's in the lilac family, but this is edible. You can make soups out of this and such, and eat the leaves raw and the shoots raw. You can make teas from it, and it has a few medicinal qualities as well. It's a bit bitter, but that is primrose or evening primrose. Hey guys, I'm in a different area, but I wanted to show you some younger primrose. You can see it there. I've seen a couple along the way, but I decided I'd show it to you because there weren't very many young ones where I showed you the other. So, hey guys, so I wanted to show you, never pass up a tool if nature gives it to you. If you look here, you could use this as a digging tool. I could make a type of old native bow drill from this, make spoon from it, and there's lots of things you could use this for. So if you're actually out in the wilderness surviving or something, you never want to pass up nature's given tools. And as I toss that down, there's another one, and it still has the socket on it. So you could make awls and use this to poke holes in leather and things. So lots of uses for bones. Ideally, you want to find them when they're not like this, but you could still use it. Again, guys, found some more bones. Could use these to make some sewing needles or something. Make some awls, jewelry. can see bones scattered all through here. Hey guys, so I wanted to show you a plant. It's not edible. It's a poisonous lookalike of some plants that are edible, and it looks very similar to parsley. But this is not parsley, this is young hemlock. Extremely poisonous, but I want to show it to you. Whole bunch of it growing through here. When it gets older, it can grow 6-7 foot tall. It often gets purple spots on it, but you do not want to eat that. I wouldn't even recommend touching it. I'm still at the homestead ground. I've showed you guys a lot of the different trees here. One tree I haven't shown you is the eastern red cedar. It's very simple. It's in the same family as the junipers. Now, eastern red cedars and junipers, they put on these kind of bluish colored little berries. They're a little bit bitter, but they are edible and they are medicinal. So the Native Americans used to use those berries. They would dry them, grind them up, they add them to flowers. It would give it a little bit of an extra flavor, I guess. You can also make teas out of the berries, as well as the leaves. They're not really like pine needle leaves like you traditionally see on most pine trees, but I do believe this is also called the pencil pine because of the way the needles are. I'll show it to you here in a second. And these small twigs can also be used to make teas. Now the berries, they are medicinal. The teas that you drink, they're also medicinal from this plant. But those berries, you can put them in your mouth and chew on them, and it will help alleviate mouth sores and canker sores, as well as the teas are used in treating colds and cough symptoms. And so I'm a tobacco user. I chew tobacco. One thing tobacco will do is any types of worms you get in your gut, you can't, if you chew tobacco, you won't have the worms because it's essentially a dewormer in a way. Well, the berries from this tree here do the same thing. So if you're out in the wilderness and you eat some bad meat or something, and you get some worms in there and you're losing weight but you're eating a lot, you've most likely got some type of worm or something. Well, if you make you a tea from the berries from the eastern red cedar, you can expel those worms that you've got in your intestines or your gut. And this is what this tree looks like here. Here on the homestead, they don't really get too big. There are some really big ones in here that are about 30 foot tall. But the majority of them, I got my little explorer with me today. You say hi, Jackie? Hi. That's a little bit taller one, but most of them get about 10, 12 foot here in the trees. There's a couple more behind me there. That is the eastern red cedar. I do believe it's also been called the Virginia pine or Virginian cedar, something like that. So I walked a little bit, and from a nice wind we had, there's some branches from these, sorry about the sun, there's some branches from these eastern red cedars on the ground, and they have some of the berries on them, so I can show you what those berries look like. And my little explorer here with me today commented, they look like little blueberries. Well, they do. They look like little blueberries.
Blueberries. See, there are little blueberries. See, they're little blueberries.
Yep, little blueberries. That's what they look like.
And
Okay, so here's some more up on this tree here. One thing I failed to mention about these berries here, the natives cooked a lot of their meat. So their gamey animals, they used these berries to help season that meat. And these take a lot of the gamey taste out of the animals that you cook it with. So it's winter time, and the big point of me making this video is I want to show you guys there are plants growing in the winter. And there's a lot of plants that grow in the winter that also grow in the summers. And I finally found one here, and it's edible, has lots of uses. You can use it as coffee substitutes and things, use it in salads, cook it, but it's dandelion. I've shown you guys dandelion before, but I want to show you dandelion growing in early January. So there you go. Tasty dandelion. There's dandelion growing all over the place. It's all over through here. Let's get some good sun right in this area. Hey guys, so something else that likes to grow this time of year in early or late winter, early spring are the buds on the trees. Now, most tree buds are edible. You know, trees like cottonwood, ash, a lot of your poisonous trees. I wouldn't recommend eating tree buds from poisonous trees, but they are edible. And here are some young ash trees. And there's some little tree buds coming on. There's not very many. It's a little bit early yet, but tree buds. And they're actually a more nutritious part of the tree. So guys, another thing, if you're ever surviving out in the wild or caught out in the wild, one thing you should always try to keep your eye out for is punkwood or dry rot. And there's a whole pot of it right here, and I'm going to show this to you. Punkwood, it's very, very spongy. This is a little moist, but you see how spongy this is. We've got a bunch of it here, some more of it over here, some more of it there.
Some more here?
Yep, you're standing on some too. Punkwood is an excellent source for starting a fire. You know, if it's dry, it still works for starting a fire. Works even better if you char it. It's one of the best char materials that you can use that nature gives you. Okay, so I was just showing you the dry rot. Another good plant, I've already shown this to you, but another good plant for that is horseshoe fungus. Now, this is a live tree. I wouldn't necessarily harvest that one. However, that one and that one. These are on dead trees. These one are most likely going to be dead. You can hear that, I can tell it's dead. Now, this stuff works for an ember, charred, not charred, either way.
Yeah.
But that is horseshoe fungus. Okay, so another plant that is edible are the lichens. Now, a lot of people get confused between lichens and mosses. They're very similar. I myself call all of them mosses. It's just a habit I have. But, however, most mosses are not edible. Mosses, however, do contain iodine. And you can use them to purify water, as well as if you've got a big enough cluster of it, you could squeeze the moisture out of it and drink it. It has iodine in it. It's going to be safe to drink. However, I would not gorge yourself on it. It could give you an upset stomach, essentially. Now, 99.9% of the lichens are edible. They're not all palatable or very nutritious. Some of them just plain taste nasty. But what I do have growing here is big red stem moss. And I don't think there's any edible qualities of it or medicinal purposes or uses. However, I do know for hundreds and hundreds of years, this type of moss has been used to put in log cabins to chink the gaps to keep the draft and the cold air and such out and keep the heat in. You could use it for the same reason in many survival situations. You know, if you've had to build a makeshift shelter and you've got log walls or something, and you've got this type of moss growing, you can use it to chink in between all those gaps. And I'll show you what this stuff looks like. You can see it growing everywhere. In fern forests, a lot of times it just grows in these huge mats across the forest floor. Now, I want to show you some of the stems. You can see here. And I will be right back with you. I know there's some really good blooming specimens in here. I saw some yesterday. I'm gonna walk around here a little bit and see if I can find one, and I'll bring you guys back on to show you that. If I can see one from here. Oh yeah. This is a very nice specimen. You can see it almost has a fern-like quality. But you can see those red stems on there. This is red stem moss. Hey guys, so I'm walking around not far from where I showed you the moss, and I see some very young white Avens growing. Now, white Avens is edible. As far as I know, the only thing that is edible are the roots. And I know the natives, they would collect the roots and boil them and eat them. I've never tried them, but supposedly it can be used as a chocolate substitute. However, the natives used to collect the roots from the young plants before they would start to grow really tall. You know, they grow about 2 foot tall. They put on some little white flowers. When they're dead, I'll show you what these the flower tops look like, as well as the dead plants. But I've got some young ones coming in the bottom. But the natives would harvest the roots when they were young like this and eat them. And that's when they taste the best, I should say. And I saw another one over here that looks just a hair different than this one. So I'm gonna walk back over there and try to show you that one here in a second. But here we've got some Texas Avens or white Avens starting to come up. I thought I saw another one. I'm not seeing it right now, but if you look here, here's the tops. After they put their little flowers on, that's what's left. You can see they grow about 2 foot tall. They actually have a crown in the ground. They grow from seed too, but a lot of times this crown where they're growing from here, they will start to resprout the next year from this crown right here. Oh, here's the one I saw. But let's go over here and let me see if I can respot. There's some more right there. There's a whole bunch of it right through here. It's gonna come up. I'm not seeing that one. On the white Avens, they do get kind of a purpley dark green color to them here in the trees, but they're normally not, there's some dandelion growing there, they're normally not, they don't get that purpley color. That could be because we've been getting a lot of frost here the last couple weeks. However, the reason most of these plants are growing this time of year is because these are frost hardy plants. And a lot of them take longer to mature and such. So a lot of them start growing, these plants, they start growing in early winter, or late winter, excuse me. And a lot of plants can only be harvested at their young stage. So even though it's winter time, don't give up your search for foraging for things, because there are things that grow in the winter and many things can only be harvested at the young stages right now. Hey guys, so here is another plant. I do know the natives did eat the berries. However, I don't think they ate very much of them because I do know this plant is slightly toxic. So if you eat too much of it, it can actually be kind of harmful to you. Medicinally though, the inner bark, they would make a concoction out of it, and it's essentially an eye wash. So if you got eye sores or something like that, you can use the concoction from the inner bark, or I also believe the leaves, to create a type of eye wash to help flush out your eyes if you get nasty gunk in them, or you get some kind of sore or something in your eyes. And I'll show you this. You can see some of the berries there. There's some more here. That is coral bush. It grows all over around here. There's a nice cluster, some big ones. Slightly edible in small quantities. Down by the pond, I was searching for a certain plant, and I found it. That is pennywort. There's my bush bus. About to cook some hot dogs for lunch up there in a second, but it came down because I knew I'd seen it here before, and I was hoping it would be starting to sprout, and I found there's some there. I think this is actually marsh pennywort, but the roots, flowers, stems, the whole thing's edible. There's a couple more back over this way. Yeah, you can see one there. But it's down here in the marshy part. Last year the water was clear back over to there, but if you look here, there's a bunch of very young thistle starting to come up. And those are edible. These young ones here, they're a bit bitter, but not too bad.